Well,
But he said, good, you can. He said,
I don't know, it's New Orleans.
oh, but it's the woman.
There's no Orleans, there's no adventure.
Comment ça, de faire la Noël? Ça va? Ça vous dérange pas pour les questions?
This idea of
Where I was in 6 years. Oh, there's something about watching it.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, probably radio professionals are lucky.
That's the best. It's very cool out my house. It's a very good question.
But here's the best part about it, though.
It's actually.
It looks like it was parallel park.
Well, this is the thing. She basically parallel parked in the two mile.
Like, that's amazing.
So apparently, what happened? Yeah, she went in through the door and then freaked out and tried to reverse out. So she like literally tried to turn around in the store.
Because yeah, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. After you've driven through the front door, you want to try to reverse out.
I'm like, that is an impressive. Like, usually you just sort of see the nose and stuff. No, she's right in there.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, did you cover the see the thing? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to.
Okay, perfect. I'm late.
I don't know why he didn't know his hair because it was all over Slack. But I guess
It's okay. Another issue.
I'm gonna plan for you about it.
Probably where you
well, they were in another movie. Another movie, right? They're plot holes.
thing happening with the track.
Saturday.
You watch Sense and Sensibility?
Yes.
Sounds like my go-to is the Notebook.
Oh yeah. Depending on your definition. Depending on your definition.
Beautiful storyline. I appreciate it. I'm sure if you watch.
A bit.
Okay. We're done.
Let's see if
I appreciate it.
Okay, so
And I'm gonna record audio separately as well in case for whatever reason this camera busts out.
My motto for 2020 is volunteer for nothing. That really worked out well for me.
Okay.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, hi, ça va?
I
Steve
just-
let me go ask.
Well, there was no way I was going to let Trace do it, but she's had the tiniest emotional line seriously. So there's no way that I was going to let that happen. And between Lee and I kind of misunderstood him at first. I thought he was just like on call in case something happened. And I've kind of quickly learned to actually shit. Whether it's when Joanna said, hey, when Melissa babysitting or whatever, was it going to continue going out there? Just fuck that is. It is not a day that I'm sorry, but and I'm hoping that I don't know because who's available, right?
Good audio. Good. Good. How about that? No.
Yeah, I'll be here in 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
That's a good one. Can we take that for the gallery? Like, you know, Prime Minister's here?
Actually, 30 minutes early.
You know how much time?
Waiting on an ETA.
30 hours? No, I mean like 30 minutes.
My cousin's
Probably
over
20.
here. So I'm staying with them right now.
20 minutes for questions.
For questions?
Very much. There was some confusion last night.
I believe so. Good point, Mr.
Not
White.
I didn't care.
Would you have an ETA?
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Only usually happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It hasn't happened like not working in a while. You are.
I left so that the friend saw that I was over listening to you.
Yeah, we're same position. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's not here, but yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
And you're sorry, you're well.
I recognize your face, but I
Okay.
never met in person.
Good.
So.
bosses have no idea.
All right, man. Thanks.
That's what
Okay.
it's like.
Okay, thanks.
But it's super cool to hear that like leaving our group says like something so has so that's another
No, at least I can be like, I said that. At least I'll feel like, you know, I didn't say that.
basically like I don't actually offend them.
But if you saw it, you'd be like, I wouldn't probably know, honestly. But like, yeah, just as like a. And then I, yeah, Mac and I both really like the cooking stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so he was on it. Okay, Mac will start. Yes. We're live on Lawyers, right?
Live on Lawyers.
Yeah. We'll be around all weekend.
Why isn't David Longer in here for an awkward picture of him with Nashville? That's what I like.
He doesn't have a, he's a.
So more updates, more to come up with.
Both of us.
Somebody on my camera.
Yeah. It's my friend Stella. I can see the back of your head.
Oh, jeez.
And then you should stand up.
You drop no names like that. That's a wave to somebody in Stittsville now. That's what I got going on for me.
Is that a long distance call?
I feel like we should have like a pre-press conference movie.
Like a safety video?
It's like a cartoon.
Just heritage minutes, you know, like.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna bring that up and say I think that's what we need to do.
Time lapse, we need like
No,
how
the
long do we
heritage-
wait?
The heritage
The
minutes.
heritage minutes. Just play heritage minutes over and over. All journalism related here. That'd be pretty short. Yeah.
I'm not gonna suggest that we wouldn't get pretty thin, but.
All right, fine. We'll go with cartoons.
Good. The good old Bugs Bunnies, not the ones that get censored, the real.
Kids.
Jesus. It was the 1940s.
We're up there.
None of those cameras have live audio back there, do they?
Oh yeah, they do.
Well, so these mics are.
Mike's our camera mics were picking this up on Thursday, so. Yeah.
You know,
Hey, look, the back of my head gets ringing. It's not.
The New York Times says many Canadians are giddy at the prospect of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle meeting.
I think so. I did that story yesterday.
Injecting some razzle dazzle to the
As
small.
far as the no go.
Do you want the sound?
Razzle dazzle? That's. Oh, I didn't see that one. The other
I've
Thursday.
not.
George, George, why do you hate fun?
Like with a tour.
Off my list.
So much.
I'm shocked that was on our honor list.
There's
I
so
thought
much.
you were gonna say, the New York Times
We
is
don't,
saying, oh,
there's no,
giddy
there's no.
here.
Yeah.
Poor Trudeau comes out, oh my god, it's so bad. I think people are excited. I mean, I went to the high tea. I just had to do this story yesterday as we were all, I don't know why we read the story, but I had to do it.
Okay.
And people were so excited. There was this like really nice lady, she's 88, she came here at 21 from Britain. She's like, they come here, they would have chose the best country in the world. I was like,
And you stole my heart.
I was like, she's in. Thank you very much, that's all I need, thank you.
And street. Okay.
And scene.
Yeah, I got tons of
Sorry,
shit.
sorry.
I saw your list to Trader.
No.
Yeah, Trader.
We don't even know what we're. So nice.
Oh, maybe it was just thinking one could be sick. That's not good. Or it did his daughter. In my head, I automatically assumed this was my
Big guy, yeah, I was gonna say.
Where is this going? We'll have a dig with that.
You're not listening to say mine.
Then you're gonna, oh, you sent one. Oh, you did, I just didn't see it, I was like, oh, I guess I'll respond.
Why should I do? Why should I visit the panel? That's the big. Ouais, ça serait sympa. Oui, les desserts, ça serait parfait.
That's probably my phone. I was like, I don't take things down ever, so yeah, sure. Like 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Guess what? I changed marriage. He wasn't mad about it, he was just
Well, I'm sorry.
Do you have like a true reason for this problem?
Sure. Sure. I'm a little more surly than your other colleague.
What's that?
Well, we knew.
Literally. That was my mistake.
Well, just the, he said.
I was actually considering just
And honestly, it is actually easier to do the office.
We'll do another sound check.
Sure. Well, wanna do that? Let's do this.
1, 2, 1, 2, sound check at the National Press Theatre. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, sound check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. All good? Perfect. Parfait, merci.
Seriously? Still have menus? No, that's why you're here.
Yeah,
You're
this is
here.
good.
Hey, the camera I brought me.
Very, yeah, very good.
That wasn't what you did.
Yeah, because now I have 4-H teachers. Usually not in this situation. No, just the videos. Where I have an hour together. Yeah, and play with the camera. Yeah.
One of the few groups on was
It's like a two-person.
oh, yeah.
That's what it's used to last.
Wow, we find out March? He said it would be paradise. Yeah.
you're a master.
Well,
I mean, he's done this 4
I'm-
days this week now.
So, still disappointed you're not doing this with that building. Yeah, listen, we have discussed it. I'm worried about tripping on the stairs.
I think they should do
I actually think that would just
I
exclude
said, just
the
leave
whole
these.
scenario.
And if we do a second round, I'll review.
Great. So then he has
Just
six.
a producer. Except given my
Not
association,
Katie Simpson.
but given I associate with producers with musical,
Yeah, I know, that's what I was.
Well,
I expect the
no
questions.
one's gonna scrum charm.
Yes.
I didn't realize you have an affinity for show tunes.
Is that your intro?
As it is usual now, we'll be using the mics for the questions, and Dominique and I will be passing them
That'll
along.
be the next topic.
It's good to see you.
Like a lot of baseball stuff.
Strike one. You're right.
This is just simply about how you make sure this is.
Are you up and doing this? Right where he said. Yeah, high. In case I don't see the limit connect.
You again?
Yeah, hang on.
Do this more often.
Yeah, no.
No,
Yes, yes, you
No.
should.
We should. That's necessarily like
not on Saturdays.
daily.
No, come on. Saturdays are tough when you use me up. How's he? You know, you're getting your own sort of thousands of dollars in payment. So now he's down the hospital.
What is
Think about
yours?
I think the NHL pays more than.
Here's your retirement plan.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's good because I'm not gonna be able to retire if I have to quit on it hockey anymore.
Ride that gravy train.
Right, that $40 a shot crazy.
Well, I can afford to live at the Legion.
What do you have against the Legion?
Nothing.
Why do you hate veterans? Why do you hate veterans, man?
Or living in Florida.
He's your guy. What's the main button? I'm trying to fix it. We have like a TV fixer. Don't stand there. Oh, there goes. That's the belt block. The first of many. Is that going? How long? Already? Can we get a heads up there? Okay, that's it.
Hello everyone. Merci d'être des nôtres. Le Canada et le monde sont en deuil. Nous nous joignons aux familles des victimes pour pleurer la perte des nombreuses victimes du vol 752 de Ukrainian International Airlines. C'est une tragédie nationale. Late last night, Iran confirmed that it unintentionally shot down Flight 752. This is an extremely serious matter. Canada and the world still have many questions that must be answered. Earlier this morning, I spoke with President Rouhani of Iran. I told him that Iran's admission that its own armed forces unintentionally shot down Flight 752 is an important step towards providing answers for families, but I noted that many more steps must be taken. A full and complete investigation must be conducted. We need full clarity on how such a horrific tragedy could have occurred. Families are seeking justice and accountability, and they deserve closure. I reiterated to President Rouhani that it is absolutely necessary that Canada participate in this investigation. We expect the full cooperation of Iranian authorities. Currently, 3 visas have been approved for members of the Standing Rapid Deployment Team. We expect that the lead members of this team will arrive in Tehran around 4 p.m. today and establish a presence on the ground to support Canadian families. Additional team members will follow. We're working with our partners who are facilitating the process by which visas are granted, and currently the Iranians are cooperating in granting visas. Lors de mon appel avec le président Rouhani, j'ai également condamné les frappes iraniennes menées en Irak qui ont mis en danger la vie de nos membres qui combattent Daesh ainsi que ceux de la coalition. J'ai également répété l'appel du Canada à la déescalation des tensions ainsi que notre engagement à assurer la paix et la sécurité dans la région. It is at times of tension like these that tragedies like this crash can happen, causing great loss of innocent life. President Rouhani's response to me was a commitment to collaborate to give closure to the victims, de-escalate tensions in the region, and continue this dialogue. Our focus remains accountability, transparency, and justice for the families and loved ones of the victims. As Minister Champagne said yesterday, our government is taking additional steps to provide more support to those grieving. I've asked the Clerk of the Privy Council to set up an emergency task force, which convened earlier today. Additionally, consular and immigration officials have been dispatched across the country so that they can be in direct contact with the families of Canadians affected by this tragedy. Minister Mendicino has set up an emergency line to ensure that officials from Immigration Canada are available to help with any visa issues. Le ministre Champagne et moi-même continuons d'être en contact avec tous autres ordres de gouvernement pour faire en sorte que les familles reçoivent le soutien dont elles ont besoin. J'ai parlé à tous les chefs de l'opposition ainsi que plusieurs premiers ministres des provinces affectées. Lorsque les Canadiens traversent de grandes difficultés, ils se montrent solidaires les uns avec les autres. Face à la tragédie, nous avons su être là pour nos voisins, nos communautés et nos concitoyens. Je sais que cet élan de compassion apporte du réconfort à ceux et celles qui ont perdu un proche à la suite de cette tragédie. Mais sachez que notre gouvernement n'arrêtera pas d'exiger des réponses aux questions qui persistent. Nous serons là, je serai là, pour veiller à ce que la lumière soit faite sur ces événements bouleversants. I remain in close contact with our partners, as are my ministers. Last night, I spoke to Prime Minister Abe of Japan, who is on his way to the Middle East, and I will soon be speaking again with Ukrainian President Zelensky and Swedish Prime Minister Löfven. Minister Champagne has been in touch with his counterparts from Iran, Switzerland, Turkey, Sweden, and Ukraine, in part to discuss progress on issuing visas for our teams. He will also reconvene a second call of the International Coordination and Response Group for the Families of Victims of PS 752 to coordinate our response for the families, together with representatives from Ukraine, Sweden, Afghanistan, and the United Kingdom, who are also grieving. Le ministre Garneau s'est également entretenu avec les autorités françaises plus tôt aujourd'hui. Je vous assure que toutes ces discussions se poursuivent. I want to end by sharing with you a bit of what I did yesterday. I had a chance to sit with some of the families of the victims. They are hurt, angry, and grieving. They want answers. They want justice. What Iran has admitted to is very serious. Shooting down a civilian aircraft is horrific. Iran must take full responsibility. Canada will not rest until we get the accountability, justice, and closure that the families deserve. Encore une fois, merci d'être des nôtres ce matin. Je vais maintenant prendre vos questions.
So we're going to start in the middle with Molly Thomas and then move over to Matthew Cote of Radio Canada.
Afternoon, Prime Minister. Now that Iran has admitted guilt, are you more confident that families are going to be able to bring their loved ones home, and is there a timeline on that?
The admission of Iran of responsibility in this horrific crash is a very important first step, and we have seen from Iran a willingness to facilitate consular access, support for the families, but it is too early to have a sense of timelines in terms of when they will be able to return with their family members.
You just had a chance to speak with Rouhani. I mean, should Iran compensate Canadian families here?
That is certainly something that is going to need to be part of the mix. I sat down with a number of families who are absolutely devastated with the loss of loved ones. They are facing financial challenges on top of the extraordinary grief that they are feeling right now. And we need to make sure that those families get the justice that they deserve.
So Matthew Goyen, Radio Canada, and then we're going to go to Mia Rapson, Canadian Press.
Bonjour, Mathieu Goyen, Radio-Canada. Quelle garantie avez-vous été capable d'obtenir ou non durant votre appel avec le président Rouhani sur la tenue d'une enquête qui va être complète et indépendante comme vous le demandez? Et à quel point faites-vous confiance au régime iranien pour ça?
Je pense que le fait qu'ils aient accepté responsabilité pour le missile qui a abattu cet avion déjà établi qu'ils sont prêts à avoir une enquête pour voir exactement ce qui s'est passé. Évidemment, nous devons s'assurer que ce sera une enquête crédible avec des joueurs indépendants internationaux, mais toutes les indications de l'Iran, particulièrement une fois qu'ils ont pris responsabilité pour ce geste, toutes les indications sont qu'ils veulent que ce soit une enquête complète et indépendante. Obviously, there have been calls for a credible international investigation from the very beginning. The fact that Iran has now taken responsibility for the downing of that aircraft means that it is likely that they will be full participants and fully allow a credible, independent international investigation with all partners involved. We still have work to do to ensure that happens, but the question of responsibility, I think, takes us a step forward towards truly having a very credible and thorough investigation.
J'ai une question. L'Iran fait un lien direct entre cette tragédie-là et l'assassinat du général Soleimani en disant que cette tension-là vient du conflit avec les États-Unis. Est-ce que vous continuez à ne pas faire de lien, vous, entre ces deux événements?
Je pense que quand on est dans des situations de conflit et de tension, c'est exactement dans ces moments-là qu'il y a des pertes de vie d'innocents et de civils. Je pense que, évidemment, le contexte dans lequel on se trouve au Moyen-Orient à ce moment-ci a contribué à cette tragédie. Mais l'Iran a bien fait de prendre responsabilité pour l'écrasement de cet avion, de cette tragédie.
So we're going to go Mia Rapson, Canadian Press, and then Boris Poole of Radio Canada.
Mr. Prime Minister, you said that the tensions in the region sort of contributed to this, and you expect Iran to take full responsibility. But Iran is still pointing some fingers at the United States, as are many others, for raising tensions in the first place. Do you share those views, and do you plan to speak with the U.S. President and discuss it?
I've had a number of conversations with the U.S. President recently and will continue to. The reality is there have been significant tensions in that region for a long time. And what we are calling for now is a de-escalation to ensure that there are no more tragic accidents or loss of civilian life, as well as moving forward to the peace and stability that is deserved by everyone in the region. Our focus right now is primarily on ensuring accountability, answers, and closure for the victims, and that is what we are engaged with.
The Ukrainian Airlines executives are questioning why Iran didn't warn them about this, that there were potential missiles in the area, that they didn't close the airspace. Are you confident that this was actually an accident?
This is one of the issues that we certainly need better answers to, and that's why this first step of admission of responsibility is an important one by Iran, but there are many other questions like that one that we'll need clear answers to in the coming days and weeks.
Okay, so Boris Poole, Radio-Canada, and then it's going to be Ashley Burke, CBC.
Boris Poole, Radio-Canada. J'aimerais savoir, plusieurs familles se sont dit fâchées, outrées. Quel est votre sentiment, Monsieur le Premier ministre? Est-ce que vous êtes aussi fâché?
Oui, je suis furieux qu'il y ait des familles canadiennes qui aient perdu leur mari, leur femme, leurs enfants, leurs parents. C'est une tragédie énorme pour tout le Canada. Pas juste pour la communauté iranienne, mais la communauté irano-canadienne est une communauté qui a contribué énormément à la prospérité de notre pays. Ils travaillent extrêmement fort, ils se sont impliqués, ils ont cru dans ce pays, dans l'avenir qu'ils sont en train de bâtir. Et pour beaucoup de ces familles, tout a été arraché en un instant par, dans le cas de plusieurs personnes, un régime qu'ils essayaient de fuir ou de s'en départir. C'est un accident, c'est un incident horrible, et je suis fâché, déçu, mais engagé fermement à trouver les réponses et la compensation et l'aide et la justice pour ces victimes. I am, of course, outraged and furious that families across this country are grieving the loss of their loved ones, that the Iranian-Canadian community is suffering so greatly, that all Canadians are shocked and appalled at the senseless loss of life. The Iranian-Canadian community is one that has contributed tremendously to this country. Hardworking, proud Canadians, contributing every day to building a better future for themselves and their kids, and too many families are destroyed. Many of these families have fled Iran, fled the regime, tried to build a better life for them elsewhere, and to have the regime that they have left behind accept responsibility for this is a bitter pill indeed.
Ashley Burke, CBC.
What specific demands did you make to President Rouhani on that phone call, and what specific assurances did you get?
I asked that we be fully included in the investigation into the cause of the crash, that all the answers be worked on together, and that we be able to have our investigators involved in everything from the black box to support on DNA identification and the various processes. I asked to ensure that consular access for Canadian officials to support grieving family members is extremely important to us, and I asked him to commit to working with us and international partners to continue to de-escalate tensions in the region. J'ai demandé au président Rouhani d'assurer que les Canadiens et les experts internationaux puissent faire pleinement partie de l'enquête dans les causes et les différents éléments de cette tragédie. J'ai demandé qu'on ait accès à notre corps consulaire pour pouvoir être là sur le terrain en Iran pour aider les familles canadiennes qui souffrent. Et je lui ai demandé de participer avec la communauté internationale, de travailler avec le Canada pour assurer une désescalation des tensions dans la région.
Despite Iran's admission, do you believe a crime was committed? And what would justice look like to you in this case?
I think these are exactly the kinds of things that we need better answers to understand exactly what happened, and the conversations around justice and compensation and accountability are questions that families have, that other countries have. We have convened a group of countries that have citizens who were killed in this terrible crash. And we will be looking to answer exactly those questions and moving forward on getting justice and accountability. Nous reconnaissons qu'on a besoin de travailler ensemble pour répondre à ces questions, pour avoir les réponses, pour avoir de la justice et de la compensation pour les victimes. Et c'est des questions qui vont devoir être répondues dans les semaines et les mois à venir.
Bruce Campion-Smith, Toronto Star, and then we're going to Mike Lukatour, Global News.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Just wondering, what consequences do you think Iran should face for this, and what options does Canada have?
I think those are the questions that the Iranian people are asking, that the international community are asking, that Canadians are asking, and this is something that we will be looking at and working on in the coming days. Our focus right now is ensuring that support for the families, whether it's consular support or support for the investigation to ensure a credible understanding of what actually happened, is the very first step, but there are many more steps to come.
And you said that Iran must take full responsibility for this. I'm just wondering, what are the elements of that? You know, exactly how will you measure whether they have or not?
I think a better understanding of both the actual incident that happened and the context in which it happened, in which a tragic loss of life was able to happen even in a moment of heightened tension. This should never have happened.
Mike Lukatour, Global National, and then we're going to go to Ryan Tumulty, National Post.
Prime Minister, despite the fact that the Iranian government has taken responsibility for this, how can you have any faith in them given they lied about this for 3 days?
I think that is a very real question that many people are asking. We are looking at the actual facts of what we see. We are seeing Iran grant visas to Canadian consular officials who are right now on their way into Tehran. We're seeing Iran allow Canadian investigators to participate in the crash investigation, but we are going to look for tangible examples of real collaboration and real openness every step of the way, so that we are supporting and looking out for and getting what is needed by the Canadian victims.
And following up on Bruce's question, one would think the consequences that Canada could have for Iran is imposing sanctions. How difficult is that of a diplomatic dance, given that you need access in Iran and they have to grant it to you, but at the same time, there are Canadians who want Iran to face consequences?
I think there are going to be many conversations and reflections on consequences over the coming days and weeks. Right now, we're focusing on what the families most need, and that is answers and access, and that is where all of our efforts are focused.
Okay, Ryan Tumulty, National Post, and then we're going to go Jason.
Prime Minister, President Rouhani talked on Twitter, in addition to expressing condolences, said that they would investigate and prosecute. I'm wondering if you think that the Iranian system may now find a culprit, blame them, prosecute them without the international community.
I think there is a recognition that there is probably individual culpability in this situation, but there is also a system-wide culpability, and the reflections around that is something that the Iranians and indeed the international partners will be engaged with over the coming weeks as we unfold in this investigation.
And you talked a little bit about Iran's so far willingness, the visas that they have granted so far. Have they granted any visas to our TSB investigators? And are you concerned that they haven't, if they haven't?
I think, Marta, can you speak to the state of the visas?
The TSB investigators just are on the ground as of this morning, and they will be, they have therefore submitted their request for visas, so we're waiting to hear about that. But thus far, we are being assured that visas will be granted both to them and to our consular team. So we'll be able to provide more information on that over the coming days.
Okay, Jason Unruh, Post Millennial.
Public Safety has listed Quds Force as a terrorist entity since 2012. Soleimani was commander of Quds Force. So my first question is, do you think Mr. Soleimani was a legitimate target? And my follow-up question to that is, if you say his killing contributed to events that unfortunately led to the downing of the aircraft, would your government now, I mean, first, can your government trust the regime on that? And would it follow through on listing the entire Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity as you voted for in September 2018?
These are the kinds of questions that we will have to be reflecting on in the coming days and weeks. Our focus right now is providing the support to grieving families that need answers, that need closure, that need justice, that need access to consular support both in Iran and in Canada. We are doing everything we can to ensure that that happens in the short term, but obviously there are reflections in the medium and long term as we move forward.
Your defense minister categorized Soleimani's assassination as an act of deterrence, one made, of course, by the United States. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think there are many conclusions that we will be drawing as we move forward and reflecting on these incidents of the past week. Our focus right now is on ensuring that we are giving all the support necessary to families who have suffered immeasurable loss right now. That means access to consular officials. That means being part of a credible investigation so that we get all the answers upon which we can then start to reflect on next steps.
All right. Due to time, I'm going to let one last really quick question. Mackenzie, if you have one.
From Mr. Prime Minister, since Iran has made the admission that they shot down the plane, we've seen a number of protests spark up in Tehran, and there's been many Canadians here, too, who have been very frustrated about that. What's your message to the protesters in Iran?
My message to Canadian families who are grieving is that we will be there for them. The message to people around the world who are outraged at this incident is that they should be demanding answers, and they should be demanding accountability and justice as well. This is a tragedy that should not have happened, and we need to make sure that we are supporting families who are going through terrible grief.
All right. Thank you very much.
Merci tout le monde. Merci.